Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you so much for a blessed day. We thank you for the labor, the food that we are partaking in, the fellowship. And Lord, as we gather here to end the day in worship, I pray, Lord, that we may have indeed an increase of knowledge. And I pray, Lord, that you may sanctify our minds and please give us the strength to meet temptations in this way. And I pray, Lord, that you may give us a clear understanding and help us to be attentive in this class. I ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I'm just looking for something if I can find it. It's an email that someone sent me. Yeah. Oh, not that one. Okay, I can't find this email. There's an email that someone's asked me to respond to, and the question is, in Daniel chapter 10.
Did you find the email?
No. I didn't think it was that long ago, but I'm going back. Oh, maybe I'll do it this way. Oh, I know why. It's alright. It's on a different email account, that's why I can't find it. So, we'll leave that. The question is, Daniel chapter 10, verse 1. There's a word in verse 1 which in the Hebrew is dabar, okay. And we'll explain it in a minute. And I'm getting that word, and I want to turn that word into Chazown. So that's basically what the question is. So we'll read the.
Are the two words the same? Is that what you're saying?
They're not the same word. They're totally.
They mean the same.
No, they don't mean the same. We'll read the verse, chapter 10, verse 1. Brother Jonathan.
Yes. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar, and the thing was true, but the time appointed was long.
So you'll see in this verse it says the thing, and it mentions it twice. This, sorry, I'm going to have to rub this off. This word thing is, in the Hebrew, dabar. And dabar means something that's spoken. Basic, that's a really simplistic definition of the Hebrew word dabar.
Can you give a topic for this class?
Yes. So, yeah, it would have been nice. So the question is, the topic is, why the thing in Daniel 10 verse 1 is the Chazown vision. So the word is the thing, and the question is, why am I saying that that's Chazown vision in Daniel 10 verse 1?
Why is dabar the Chazown vision?
That's the question. I made a statement in one of our classes. I'm saying, when we read chapter 10 verse 1, he says, in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed. He got revealed. What was revealed to him was the Chazown vision. And the Chazown vision was true, but the time appointed was long, and he understood the Chazown vision. Yes, because 3 times, not twice.
3 times.
Yeah, and he had understanding of the vision. So in the class I said that the thing that he's referring to was the Chazown vision, and this brother's obviously gone back. I think I even mentioned it then, that the thing wasn't the word Chazown. He's asking, what's my justification calling the thing the Chazown. So we're just gonna run from Daniel 8 all the way into Daniel 11, and we're going to just trace through really quickly, hopefully by the end of this worship, the word vision and its different usages through these 4 chapters. When we mentioned this issue before in chapter 10 verse 1, I'm saying specific the thing that he understands is Daniel 11. And when I say Daniel 11, I mean Daniel 11 and 12, because they're really the same chapter. They're just a continuation. So this is the thing that he's understanding in verse 1, when it says, in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed to him. So the thing that's revealed to him is Daniel 11, the vision of Daniel 11 and 12. The thing was true, but the time appointed was long, so this vision is going to last a lot longer than he ever anticipated. And then he says he understood the thing, he understands Daniel 11, and then it says he had understanding of the vision. We'll pick up this word vision in a bit, but this word vision is the Mareh vision, the appearance vision, the Mareh vision.
You were just in the same chapter 11, or was that 8?
Chapter 10, all I just was a summary of chapter 10 verse 1.
Right.
So all I'm summarising is this, that when Cyrus is king, a thing which is the vision of Daniel 11, the vision of Daniel 11 is revealed to him, and the thing, Daniel 11 is true, and Daniel 11 is going to last a long time. And so when he says the thing, it's the vision of Daniel 11 and 12. And I'm saying the vision of Daniel 11 and 12 is just the Chazown vision. I already explained the logic to say that chapter 10 verse 1 actually comes at the end of the book, not at the beginning of the book. Chapter 10 verse 1 should actually be chapter 12 verse 14. So after he sees all the vision of 10, all the vision of 11 and 12, then he writes a statement, and he writes that statement and puts it in the beginning of chapter 10 verse 1. So we've already explained, or we've discussed that before. So this is not a deep study of the 3 visions, the Chazown, the Mareh, and the Marah vision. We've spoken about these a number of times. It's not a deep study of them, but just what I want to do is try and address and try and answer this question as best as I can with a sort of a brief overview. So if we go to Daniel chapter 8 verse 1, this is going to be the Chazown vision. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a Chazown vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared to me at the first. 8:2. And I saw it in a Chazown vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a Chazown vision, and I was by the river Ulai. So there's the Chazown vision twice, in verse 2. Verse 13, this next place we see the word vision. And I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, this is Christ Palmoni speaking with Gabriel, how long shall be the Chazown vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? So here's the Chazown vision. Verse 15. And it came to pass, when I, Daniel, had seen the Chazown vision, and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me one as the appearance of a man. So here's the Chazown vision. Hopefully this is not going to cause consternation. This is the Chazown vision that he's seen. Then there's a discussion in verse 13. It says, how long is this vision here? Verse 15, Daniel says he wanted to know the meaning of this vision as well. We've discussed this issue. There's a nice Ellen White statement says that Daniel wanted to understand the relationship between the 70-year captivity and the 2300 day captivity. So the 2300 days. This is the 2300 days. And here, at the back end of that, the sanctuary is going to be restored. But here's Daniel. Maybe if I just put it here. With his 70 years captivity, he knows they're coming to the end of their captivity. He already knows that. And he's expecting, at the end of 70 years, they're going to go back to Jerusalem, and what's going to happen? The sanctuary is going to be restored. So he's expecting the restoration of the sanctuary, but it doesn't look the same as he remembers it or how it should be. So he's trying to understand the relationship between the 70-year captivity and the 2300 days. And there's this confusion in his mind, because at one point, just at one level, this is going to be a lot longer than he ever anticipated, and the cleansing of the sanctuary, its restoration, isn't the same. There's lots of things that he's confused about. So he's asking, can you explain what this means, what this vision means?
He wants to know how long.
Yeah. And he wants to know how long, and he wants to know why it's long.
Right.
Because he's saying it's supposed to be 70, now it's been suddenly increased. And then we're going to go into chapter 9, and we're going to have some more dialogue there. Verse 16. So Daniel's asking, can you tell me how long the Chazown vision is going to be? Then verse 16 says, and I heard a man's voice between the banks of the Ulai. Between the banks of the Ulai means he's on the river, between two banks. So he's standing on the river. This is Christ. The same imagery that's brought to view in Daniel 12. Which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand not the Chazown vision, but the Moreh vision. So before this point, we never even knew there was a Moreh vision existing. So somewhere between verses 1 and 14, there's another vision that's appearing, which you can't see in the verses. It's not brought to view in the verses. So there's this thing that Daniel's seen. He's asking about this vision of prophetic history, and Christ is saying to Gabriel, don't explain the Chazown vision. We understand his question, but we want him to understand something else. We want him to understand the Moreh vision, not the Chazown vision. Verse 17. So he came near. Gabriel's going to come near where I stood. And when he came, I was afraid and fell on my face. But he said unto me, understand, O Son of Man, for at the time of the end shall be the Chazown vision. So here's the Chazown vision, and it says it's going to be, or its fulfillment's going to happen, or it's going to exist or last until the time of the end. A long time. 8:26. 8:26 has got the word vision twice in this verse, and it's going to pick up both visions. It says, and the Moreh vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. So this Moreh vision is the evening and the morning vision.
So 2300 days.
Which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the Chazown vision, for it shall be for many days. So the Chazown vision is a long prophecy, because it says it's going to last many days. And the Moreh vision is the vision of the evening and the morning. So the vision of the evening and the morning goes back to verse 14. Verse 27. And I, Daniel, fainted and was sick certain days. Afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and was astonished at the Moreh vision, but none understood it. So here, he's astonished at the Mirror vision, but no one understands. So by the time you've got to the end of Daniel chapter 8, he's seen this vision. In fact, he sees two visions. He sees the Chazown vision and the Mirror vision. The Chazown vision is a vision that lasts many days. So it's something that has a long duration connected to it. And he doesn't understand what the Mirror vision is. Then we get into Daniel chapter 9. Daniel chapter 9, first year of Darius. Now he's beginning to re-examine, re-evaluate his understanding of the 70-year captivity.
Sorry, Parminder, would you mind rehashing the distinction between the Mari vision, and the Chazown, so that Chazown vision is the 2300 days?
What I'm going to do is I just want to go through all the verses first,
Okay.
and hopefully answer that, and then if we've got time we'll go back into this and rehash them,
Okay.
or explain them in a bit more detail. Because if we get locked down to this, I don't think I'm going to finish. So he thought he understood the 70 years. He knows it's about to come to an end, because you're at the third generation of the kings of Babylon, which was a prophetic marker, and he had a reasonably good idea when it was going to start. Either you want to start in the fourth year or third year of Jehoiakim, or you're going to start at the last year of Zedekiah, depending on where he understands this 70-year captivity begins. But he knows he's coming to the end of it. He also knows that the Medes and the Persians are on the rise. So by the time you get to Daniel chapter 9, Babylon's already taken off the scene. Darius the Mede has taken the throne, and he probably didn't realize that he was going to do that, because the prophecy of Isaiah says that Cyrus is the one who's the anointed one. So he's not sure what's going on, so he's going to go back into the books, Jeremiah, including Jeremiah, and he's going to try and understand what's going on. Then he says now he understands about the 70-year captivity. Then he prays the prayer of submission or repentance, and then we get to 9:21. So in Daniel 9:21 it says, yes, yea, while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, who I had seen in the Chazown vision. So here's the Chazown vision again, and it says that he sees Gabriel. Let me put it this way. Gabriel was in the Chazown. Verse 23. Gabriel's going to be speaking to Daniel. At the beginning of thy applications, I'll read the verse first. The commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved. Therefore understand the matter, and consider the vision. The word matter here is the word dabar. This word dabar is the same word for thing here. So let me put dabar. They're both the same words, the dabar. And dabar basically means to speak. That's why they just say the matter or the thing, or what someone said. The word commandment in this verse, at the beginning of thy supplication, the commandment came forth. That word commandment is also dabar. So you can see how dabar is used. At the beginning of thy supplication, the word went forth from God to send Gabriel to Daniel to show him something. So that's how the word dabar used. It says, for thou art greatly beloved, therefore understand the dabar. So I'm going to tie this dabar here of 9:23 with verse 15. 8:15. 8:15 says, "And it came to pass, when even I, Daniel, had seen the Chazown vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man." So he wants to understand the Chazown vision, and in 9:23, he's going to begin to be taught about the Chazown vision. So the matter, which is the debar, in 9:23 is connecting back to his question in 8:15. Hopefully I explain the logic for that. In connection with this, in 9:23, we'll call that A and B, it says, "Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision," or the Mareh. So the Mareh is being brought to view again, which was picked up from chapter 8. In chapter 8, Daniel wants to understand the Chazown, and Christ wants him to understand the Mareh. Chapter 9 comes, Gabriel he's been sent, and now Gabriel says, understand the debar, and I'm saying the debar here is the Chazown vision. I'm going to explain why. And then he says, understand this and consider the Mareh vision. So there's a distinction made between these two visions. He needs to understand this, and if I can just put it this way, that think about this, but I'm going to make you understand what the Chazown vision is, which is what you asked for.
In addition to what you're saying, the word "understand" means in the Hebrew to consider or separate mentally. Look at both.
Yes.
Two different things.
So we want to understand these two things and the relationship between them, but they're separate and distinct, and we're going to tackle, Gabriel is going to tackle on behalf of Daniel, this one first, and then this one will get sorted out somehow later on.
So verse 9:23, chapter 9:23, A and B, is unraveling all of the chapter of 8.
Beginning to. But we're going to find by the time you get to the end of chapter 9, it still isn't sorted out for Daniel. But this is the beginning of it.
But the main two issues between what he saw is going to be unraveled.
Yes. So, verse 24. Let's read verse 24 before I just explain a little bit about this. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the Chazown vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. So here's the Chazown vision in 9:24. So let's just get this bit of information here and bring it here. So we've got the 70 weeks, which is 70 times 7. 70 times 7 weeks, which is the 490-year time prophecy. Everybody's familiar with this. And then it says 70 weeks are determined. The word determined, it only occurs once in the Bible, so it's not an easy one to cross-reference. We understand the word determined means to be a portion of. Often we just say to cut off, and it's correct, but you haven't got a cross-reference for this because it's only going to occur one time in the Bible. So we have, if this is our timeline, we've got 490, 1810, and the 2300 days. It's split into two portions. This is for the church, and this is for the world, if I can put it this way. Or we could say this is for ancient Israel, and this is for the Gentiles. 457, 34, 1844. This is AD, this is BC. So it's all standard information, we all know that. Verse 24 is going to pick up a specific point. It says 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, and then a number of things are going to happen. It says to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision, the Chazown vision. When it says prophecy, it's actually prophet. So it's sealing up the vision and the prophet, and to anoint the most holy. if you list all of those things and see all the characteristics, all of that information that's being discussed there is a combination of events that go from 27 to 31 AD, which is the timeline or the history of Christ from his baptism to the crucifixion. Most of those things are looking at the crucifixion. The anointing of the Most Holy is his baptism. So all of this history that's going on here is occurring in the 70th week. This is the 70th. It's the 70th week of the 490-year prophecy.
Right.
So we've got 69 weeks and the 70th week. And it says all of this is connected up to the Chazown vision. So whatever's being discussed here is all related to the Chazown vision. Now, without getting into all the verses, but if we were to look through and read verses 26 and 27. 26 and 27 is a really nice study that you can do to understand what's going on, because we often do this with chapter 9. We say chapter 9 is a prophecy that lasts 490 years, yeah? We do this 457 to 34 and we have 27 there, and we might break this up and make some points sometimes. But if you were go to verse 26 and 27, it gives a lot more information. Let's read verse 27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. So I'm just going to stop there. That history is in the history of the week of Christ.
Right.
First part 27. But now it switches gear where it says, and for the overspreading of abominations. These are the abominations that God's people are doing in Jerusalem. He shall make it desolate. So God is going to make Jerusalem desolate, picking up AD 70, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Now that word desolate actually should have been translated desolator.
Right.
So what's being discussed, and we could do the same with verse 26. Verse 26 and 27 is a nice little chiastic pattern. You've got 26 and 27, and 26 is split into 2 sections, and 27 is split into 2 sections. This is the 70th week and the 70th week, and this is what happens afterwards, and this is what happens afterwards. And verse 27, just the last part, it says, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolator. And what's determined? Who is the desolator? Who desolates Jerusalem? Rome desolates Jerusalem. We'll just say Rome in a generic sense. And it says that determined shall be poured upon the desolator. And what's being poured upon the desolator is the deadly wound. So verses 26 and 27 take you all the way down to 1798.
I didn't understand the little graphic.
Oh, if this is 26 part A, part B, 27 part A and part B, you can split each of those verses into 2 segments. I didn't read verse 26, but I read verse 27. Verse 27, the first part of the verse says what's going to happen in the time of Christ. If we read the verse, so I've just put the 70th week. Then there's a comma halfway into the verse, and it says, and for the overspreading of abominations.
This is after the 70th.
So after the 70th week, now because that 70 weeks have been determined, cut off for them, they've got their probationary time, are they going to come on the right side of this probationary time or the wrong side? They come on the wrong side, they crucify their Messiah, and now the punishment's going to be followed through. You can connect all of this with Matthew 24, Mark 13 and Luke 21. It's a direct connection into this chapter. Do you remember when it says in, I think it's in Luke, or Matthew, Mark or Luke, it says, read the book of Daniel, whosoever understandeth, something. But it says to read the book of Daniel, whosoever...
Matthew 24, 15.
Maybe we should quickly read that, Matthew 24, 15. Matthew 24, 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. So when you see this passage, it says you need to go and read the book of Daniel. If you go and read through the book of Daniel and you find out what this is referring to, it takes you to chapter 9. It's going to take you to chapter 9, verses 26 and verse 27. 26 and 27 is what's being referred to in Matthew 24:15. And it's this desolation that's going to come upon Jerusalem. And it says this person who desolates Jerusalem in AD 70 is going to be desolated himself when his time is fulfilled, which is in 1798. So the prophecy of Daniel chapter 9 is the same prophecy of Daniel chapter 8. It's not just this portion that's cut off. It's not just this 490 years. It goes all the way virtually up to the 2300 days, but it's just short of these 46 years. It's 46 years short of the 2300 day prophecy when you see what Daniel chapter 9 is teaching.
So this is in agreement with the image of Daniel 2.
In what way?
It's the Roman power. It's the same as Daniel 8:9 and Daniel 8:13.
Yes. Yes. It's all dealing with this Roman power.
Right.
So when we tie this back to 924, it says 70 weeks are determined upon thy people to seal up the Chazown vision. So this sealing up is at one level to fulfill the Chazown vision. So the connection between the 490 years to the Chazown vision is shown when you tie up or connect verses 26 and 27. So the Chazown vision that's brought to view here in 924, I'm saying is, in the context of chapter 9, is this time period here, 457 to 1798. So this is what he's going to make him understand, which is in the fulfillment of verse 23. Verse 23 says, understand the matter. And he's going to show you what the matter is from verse 24 to 27. He's going to say, this is the matter. So let me put it this way. The matter is verses 24 to 27. And what is 24 to 27? 24 to 27 is exactly the same history that you get in Daniel chapter 8.
Right.
It's the same history.
It's identical.
So this is what he's showing you. And if we go back to chapter 8, it's covering this same period. So when he says, show me the Chazown vision, he's going to show him the Chazown vision in chapter 9. Different language, few different waymarks, looking at it from a different perspective, but it's the same history. So when he says, I'm going to make you understand the matter here, the matter, the understanding of it, is the understanding of the Chazown vision. So that's the connection between the Debar in chapter 9:23 and the Chazown vision of Daniel chapter 8:15. Then we get to Daniel 10 verse 1. Daniel 10 verse 1, which is where we started, says this: in the 3rd year of Cyrus king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar, and the thing was true, but the time appointed was long. And he understood the thing, and had understanding of the Mareh vision. So I'm saying this, Daniel 12:1 occurs at the end of chapter 12. And he's been shown something. What's he been shown? He's been shown Daniel 11. So Daniel 11 is going to begin in the time period of the Medes and the Persians, which is the 3rd year of Cyrus. You can pick it, you know it's the reign of Cyrus because verse 2 teaches that. Verse 2 says there's going to yet have 4 kings stand up after the current king. And the 4 kings are Cyrus, Cambyses, Falsmerdis, Darius, Xerxes. Xerxes is Ahasuerus of the book of Esther. So you know this, it begins, Daniel 11 begins with Cyrus. And where does it end? It ends at the time of the end in 1798, verse 40.
So that's the same as chapter 8.
It's the same as chapter 8. It's the same as chapter 8. So when he says, I understood the thing that he's understanding is what he's seen. He's seen this vision, and this vision is the same vision that he saw in chapter 9, the same vision he saw in chapter 8. It's the Chazown vision. So when I said the thing is the Chazown vision,
That's what makes it the Debar.
yeah, that's why that's why the Debar is the Chazown vision. It's not a word association. It's running through the chapters and seeing how it's being used, how these words are being used.
Chapter 8. Okay, so the thing he understands is the Chazown vision in chapter 8 or chapter 9?
He understands now. Remember we spoke about this in Daniel chapter 2 verse 4 to Daniel chapter 7 verse 28. It switches from Hebrew to Aramaic, to Chaldean. And you can run through the word vision in chapter 2, chapter 4 and chapter 7. And in those 3 chapters, the word vision there is the Aramaic or the Chaldean word for Chazown. They share similar properties.
It's the equivalent.
Yes, so you know that chapter 2 is the Chazown vision, chapter 4 is the Chazown vision, which is interesting because the chapter 4 is only dealing with...
But I was asking a different question.
Oh, sorry, forget that then. What's your question?
No, finish your statement about the number 4.
Oh, okay. So let me just do that then. The chapter 4 is only a teeny little vision about a king in Babylon.
Right.
The 2520. But that story there, now you have the license to go into that story and expand it out and see that story is talking a lot more than just about Nebuchadnezzar.
So it's figurative, not literal.
It has to be figurative because it's the Chazown vision,
Right.
and chapter 7 is the Chazown visions. So all of those are the same thing. And we've already found in chapter 11 and chapter 12, and now we've seen, because we've just done chapter 9, that they're all leading you to the same place, 1798.
Okay.
And your question
My
was?
question was Daniel 10:1, the thing, you were explaining the sentence where Daniel understands the Chazown vision back in chapter 8 or chapter 9? Is what I wanted.
The thing is Daniel 11. That's what the thing is in verse 1. In Daniel 10 verse 1, the Debar is Daniel 11. It's the vision of Daniel 11. But if you look at Daniel 11, what does Daniel 11 look like?
Yeah.
Daniel 11 goes from Cyrus to the time of the end, verse 40. I know it carries on a bit,
Yeah.
but we're picking up this here, time of the end. This history here is the same story as this one.
Right.
It's the same story as Daniel 8. It's the same story of Daniel 7. So you know that when he says, I understood the thing, which is Daniel 11, the thing of Daniel 11 is the same thing as Daniel 9, same thing as Daniel 8. And we've already shown that Daniel 9, the matter is the same thing as the Chazown of chapter 8.
Okay, great.
So they're all tying back and connecting together.
So, the different ways that his own vision has been presented in Daniel is an earmark for repeat and enlarge.
Repeat and enlarge. So
And it's done through the Chazown vision.
it's done through the
The
Chazown
vehicle
vision.
to let us to see how it's being repeated and enlarged is carried through Daniel in the Chazown vision.
The Chazown vision is used to show us how Christ is engaging with this world, repeated and enlarged upon over and over again. It's the union of Christ with his people, and it's also the struggle between the kingdom of Satan and the kingdom of God. How they come to God's people, persecute God's people, how Satan's kingdoms rise and fall, and yeah, that's it. I've forgotten the person's name who who emailed me the question, but I hope the question's been answered, and I hope for us we've had a reasonable overview, because we didn't ever get a chance to really do this, to trace the word vision all the way through, and it hasn't explained many things about the Hazon, Mareh and Marah vision, but hopefully, to me, the important things to know is that in verse 23, when it talks about the matter, and in verse 1 of chapter 10, when it speaks about the thing, that it's talking about the Hazon vision, which runs all the way through this narrative. And also to know that verse 1 is something that's happening after the vision of chapter 11 is given. And when all that begins to make sense, it all, I think, all fits in place. Brother Marco.
Can you perhaps repeat just quickly again, why is the matter that he sees in verse 1 what he will see in chapter 11? I think I didn't get that.
Oh, you mean in chapter 10?
In chapter 10 verse 1.
Why does it refer to what he will see in
Because when we didn't read the whole of chapter 9, but when you get to when you in chapter 9, he doesn't understand everything that's going on. He gets some explanation of things, but he doesn't have full clarity. When you get to chapter 10, he says, now I understand everything.
Mm-hmm.
But he's still got the whole of Daniel 11 and Daniel 12 to go through. Mm-hmm. And so how I understand what verse 1 is dealing with is that verse 1 is dealing with after he's seen chapter 11. Once he sees the rise and falls of the king of the north and the final response of Christ in Daniel 12:1, how he's going to come and destroy the king of the north, how God's people are going to be related to all of this, that he says that I understood the thing, I understand all of this history that's going on. I don't think I've answered your question well enough.
But for what you're saying, if I understood you just now, it was a little more clear. Daniel 10:1 is telling the fact that what he has been shown in 11 and 12 is putting the finishing touches on his understanding of Daniel 8 and 9.
Yes. When he had Daniel 8 and Daniel 9, they were all good. But
he understands it, but the angel here in 11 and 12 puts the finishing touch on what he has understood. And he's saying so in 10 verse 1.
Yes. So 10 verse 1, I'm suggesting occurs after chapter 12, because before 10 he didn't understand what was going on.
So I got one more question to ask you then. If that's the case, then one of the main important clues to the Chazown vision is the comment made in Daniel 11 verse 14. That Rome establishes the vision.
Yes.
Because that's the fourth kingdom of all the repeated and large explanations in Daniel. And there he finally gets to the point that it's Rome that establishes what you saw in Daniel 8, what you saw in Daniel 9, and what I'm showing you now in 11 and 12.
My last few seconds, let me try and answer Brother Marco's question perhaps in a different way. In 923 part B, in part A he says, understand the matter and, did it say consider? 923. Understand the matter and consider the Mareh. So here he has to have understanding, and he has to only consider the Mareh. And the whole purpose of all of these chapters is to understand the Mareh, because that's what Christ said. He says, make him understand the Mareh. You know, let's not worry too much about the Hazon vision. But he understands he's going to be instructed upon what the Hazon vision is. So the Mareh vision is just lost sight of in this whole story. Let's read quickly chapter 10 verse 1 again. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar. And the thing was true, but the time appointed was long, and he understood the thing and had understanding of the Mareh vision. So from chapter 8 to chapter 9, you see nowhere that the Mareh vision is ever dealt with. But you begin to see the Mareh vision being dealt with in the rest of chapter 10, after verse 1. So that's why the place you can identify, that's the logic to identify that verse 1 is happening after the rest of the verses of chapter 10. So if chapter 10 goes to verse 21, verse 1 should then be really verse 22 at a minimum, because he's already understood the Mareh vision, and there's never been any discussion of the Mareh vision. But you're going to see the Mareh vision and the Marah vision. You have to have some kind of ability to interact with those two things and how they relate one to another. But it's in the understanding that he says, I understand the Mareh vision in verse 1, and it's never been explained except from verses 2 to verses 21 in chapter 10. So I would put verse 1 at verse 22. But the reason I wouldn't stop there is because after verse 21, he's just carrying on the narrative straight on, right through chapter 11 and into chapter 12. It's all happening in a 10-minute conversation. After this 10-minute conversation, however long it is, then he writes verse 1 at the very end of the book. And at the very end of the book, he's just gone through the whole of Daniel 11, that's the reason why I'm putting it there, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah.
I didn't bring up all the verses. I'm going to skip through verses 7 and 8 in chapter 10, which is the Marah vision, but I want to pick up verse 14. 10 verse 14. Now I am come to make thee understand. Gabriel's going to make Daniel understand what shall befall thy people in the latter days, for yet the Chazown vision is for many days. So here's verse 14. He says, I'm going to make you understand now what's going to happen to God's people, and he's identifying the Chazown vision, and then he's going to give the story of Daniel 11. So Daniel 11 is being marked here as the Chazown vision. And the other thing I want you to, if you can put a connection, 8:26, it says the Chazown vision was for many days. The last part of the verse says many days in 8:26. In 10:1, it says the thing was true, but the time appointed was long. So whatever the thing is in verse 1, it's long. And then in verse 14, it says the Chazown vision is for many days. So you can pick up many days, was long, and many days from 8:26, 10:1 and 10:14. That is another connecting link between the Chazown vision of 8:26 and 10:14 and the thing of 10:1.
So that means that they're both included in the question, how long?
Everything. Yeah, if I say yes, it might be too oversimplistic an answer because it's a complicated question.
But that means that when you get to verse 1 of chapter 10, which he's written after he sees the vision of 11 and 12, it seems that verses 7 and 8, the Mara, that means that preparatory to having the experience there in verses 7 and 8 of chapter 10, that without the understanding he wouldn't have the experience.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot more involved in these chapters than we first bring to sight. You mentioned 11:14 just in closing earlier on.
Right.
11:14 it says establish the vision. That vision is the Chazown vision.
Yes.
So Rome establishes the Chazown vision, but what did we say 9:24 said?
You said 9:24 was also the Chazown vision.
And what's happening? It says to seal up or to put a seal upon the Chazown vision is whose work? According to 9:24, it's the work of Christ. Christ's 70th week ministry is going to put a seal upon the Chazown vision. It says to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and the prophet.
The 70th week.
The 70th week. So there's a sealing of the Chazown vision that is a work of Christ, and there's also a sealing of the Chazown vision that's done by Rome. both of these people, these entities, are going to be doing some kind of sealing work or establishment that this vision is true.
Well, then that's transferable to the end of the world.
It's transferable to the end of the world.
So Rome will be doing the sealing as well?
It says to exalt themselves, to establish. It says the word establish.
Okay.
Establish, we can understand to fulfill, but in 924 the word seal can also be to fulfill, to rubber stamp. They're synonymous terms. Brother Marco.
There's a little confusion because you said that the word dabar, it's many times in verse 23. It's the commandment.
The commandment in the verse 20.
It's only twice in 23, isn't
And
it?
also in verse 25, it's the commandment. It's the dabar.
Yes, the word itself is just a generic word. So if we were to go, say for instance, if we went to, let's go to Daniel chapter 8, and I want to look at, it's not in, let me see where it is. Verse 15. Yeah, verse 15, it says, and it came to pass when even I, Daniel, had seen the Chazown vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man. Now, I keep on adding the word Chazown vision, but it really doesn't, it just says, I had seen the Chazown.
Right.
But the word appearance there is the Maria. So it would say, O son of man, for a time, there stood before me as the Maria of a man. Now when we pick up that word Maria, Maria,
All right.
this one here,
It's the EH.
the Maria vision, he sees the Maria vision, he sees an appearance of Gabriel. But we don't pick up that word appearance of Gabriel and make any prophetic significance of it. It's just because the word Maria just means to see something. So he just sees it. And in the same way where we pick up the word the bar just means to speak. But the way it's used in 23 is in this unique way. But the word's used, I don't know how many times in the book of Daniel, I haven't checked, but it's used in many, many different places without any prophetic significance. And that's, so the question you're asking is the question that this brother was asking. What gives me the license to say the bar suddenly turns into Chazown when her bar just means anything? So that's the problem that he was having. It's the same question that you're bringing up. Let's close this prayer. I'm sorry we're 15 minutes over time. As we're closing, hopefully we've got a better understanding of the way these visions interact one with another. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your loving kindness and your goodness towards us. We want to ask and pray that you would be with us and bless us. Father, as we meditate upon these visions, help us to have a clearer understanding of the role that they play in our relationship with the world and our relationship with you. Please be with us and bless us, we ask and pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.